I know many of you are watching every dollar and trying to keep the basics covered. When you hear talk about $2,000 checks, it is natural to feel hopeful and also anxious. Will it really happen? When? Who qualifies? Will this affect Social Security, Medicare, or the benefits you rely on to get through each month? You deserve straight, calm answers that help you plan. Today, I will walk you through what is being promised, what the money would come from, the legal steps required, and the real risks that most headlines leave out. My goal is to help you feel less confused, more in control, and clear on what to do next, without hype or fear. President Donald Trump has brought back the idea of sending $2,000 checks to Americans, and he has given it a new label, a tariff dividend. He has said that because tariffs bring in billions of dollars, that money should be returned to middle and lower income Americans as cash. He has repeated this idea more than once in interviews and on social media, and it is not just a throwaway line. The White House has said they are looking into it. You may have seen bits and pieces online or heard it from a friend, and it can sound straightforward. But under that headline are real questions about the math, the law, and the timing. These are the parts that will affect your wallet and your peace of mind, and they are the parts that often get skipped.
The headline sounds simple, so let us slow down and make it simple in reality. First, the money source. A tariff is a tax the government charges on certain imported goods. When a tariff is collected, the money goes into the Treasury, which is the government's bank account. There is a common belief that tariffs are paid by foreign countries. In practice, importers in the United States pay the tariff, and the cost often moves through the supply chain and shows up in prices that you and I pay for everyday goods. People hear that tariffs raise money, and then hear $2,000 checks and assume one funds the other. The Treasury has reported that customs duties brought in around $195 billion in 2025. In a strong year, tariff revenue might be in the range of $200 billion to $300 billion. That is real money, but it is not enough to cover what is being talked about. If the government sent $2,000 to everyone, including children, economists estimate the price tag would be roughly $600 billion. If the checks went only to middle and lower income Americans, the total would still be around $400 billion to $500 billion. That leaves a gap. When there is a gap between what a proposal costs and what is available to pay for it, Congress gets involved. They either have to find other cuts, raise other taxes, or decide to borrow the difference. Those choices take time and set off debates. That is why big promises often slow down once they hit the real process.
Some people ask a fair question: why not just borrow the rest? Technically, Congress could approve more borrowing. But borrowing more money adds fuel to inflation worries, especially in a time when many families are still dealing with higher prices for groceries, rent, insurance, and gas. During the pandemic, the government sent stimulus checks. One study from the Federal Reserve estimated that those checks added about 2.6 percentage points to inflation. That does not mean inflation was caused only by the checks. It means the checks were one meaningful piece of what pushed prices up. When prices rise faster than your income, your budget gets squeezed. If you live on Social Security, a pension, or a fixed benefit, that squeeze is even tighter because your monthly check does not jump up just because the price of milk and medicine jumped up. It also matters that tariffs themselves can lift prices on the things we buy. A Yale study found that current tariffs are costing American households around $1,800 a year. Think about that number for a moment. If a policy raises your costs by about $1,800 a year, and then the same policy is used to justify sending you a $2,000 check, it can feel a bit like someone taking $20 out of your wallet, handing you $10 back, and calling it a gift. Those are not my words. That is how many people have described it in plain language. It is not meant to be harsh. It is meant to put the trade-offs into perspective. The same policy that is claimed as a funding source also nudges the cost of daily life higher. Now let us talk about what the law actually allows. Even when a president supports a plan and repeats it often, the president cannot spend money on his own. The United States Constitution gives Congress the power of the purse. That means any plan to send out checks requires Congress to pass a bill. The Treasury Secretary has already confirmed that legislation would be needed for this. So no matter how many times you hear that a president wants this to happen, it cannot happen unless Congress agrees and sends a bill to the president's desk to sign. As of today, no bill for these $2,000 tariff dividend checks has cleared a single committee. There is one related bill that is sometimes mentioned called the American Worker Rebate Act, introduced by Senator Josh Hawley. That proposal would also use tariffs to fund rebate checks. But it is currently stuck in the Senate Finance Committee. That tells you where things actually stand. There is talk, there is interest, but there is not a law, not even a bill moving forward toward a vote. There is another piece most headlines skip over, and it could become very important. A major case is in front of the Supreme Court of the United States about whether certain tariffs are legal in the first place. The administration has argued in court that the tariffs are regulatory. That means they have said the purpose is not mainly to raise revenue, but to regulate trade. Meanwhile, the public talk about the $2,000 checks treats the tariff money like revenue for cash payments. Those two positions do not match. If the Supreme Court decides that the tariffs were mostly about money, the government might have to refund a lot of those tariffs to businesses. If that happened, the pot of money that is supposed to fund the checks could disappear right off the table. There is no set timeline for when the court will decide. That uncertainty is another reason to be cautious about relying on promises that have not moved through Congress and that depend on a funding source still being fought over in court. You also need to know about the timing that has been mentioned. The idea has been presented as checks that would not go out this year, but sometime next year. Timing matters in politics. Next year leads into the 2026 midterm elections. Big cash promises tend to show up around election seasons because they make headlines and they speak to people who are struggling. Prices for food, rent, and health costs have stayed high. Insurance is expensive. Gas prices bounce up and down. Many people hear $2,000 and think about catching up on bills, buying new tires, fixing a tooth, paying for a procedure, or just having an emergency cushion. That emotional pull is powerful and very understandable. It is also why it is important to separate the emotional relief a promise can bring from the actual steps needed to make it real. You deserve clarity about what is happening and what is not. The idea of $2,000 checks funded by tariff money is being talked about publicly. The White House has said they are studying the numbers. Alongside that, there is another idea being discussed: encouraging Republicans to support putting money directly into people's health savings accounts. A health savings account is a special account that lets you set aside money for medical expenses. Together, these two ideas, the big check and the health savings account push, are being floated ahead of a crucial election year. They are popular ideas because they speak to common, real worries: medical bills, rising costs, and the feeling of being stretched thin. But here is the calm, fair assessment based on the facts in front of us today. There is no bill on the floor. There is no timeline set by Congress. The money from tariffs does not cover the full cost of the plan as described. Borrowing to fill the gap could add to inflation pressures at a time when many people are already strained. The president cannot send out checks without Congress. And the very funding source that is being promoted is tied up in a Supreme Court case that could lead to refunds to businesses, which would remove the money entirely. That does not mean this is impossible. It means it is not close. It means you should not plan your monthly budget around this promise. It also means the idea could come back in a louder way later, especially if consumer spending weakens or if anxiety about the economy rises. Tariffs, checks, and rebates tend to return to the conversation when the public mood is fragile. Right now, many households feel that fragility in a very personal way. Let us take that understanding and make it practical for your situation. If you live on Social Security, a pension, or a fixed income, the most important thing you can do is avoid counting on money that has not been passed into law. Do not take on new debt because you expect a future check. Do not delay an essential bill because you hope relief is around the corner. Build your month around what is certain, not what is being discussed. If a law gets passed, you will have time to respond, prepare, and claim what is rightfully yours. For now, set your plan based on the checks you know will come, not on what might come. Another practical step is to protect yourself from scams that pop up when people are excited or anxious. Scammers watch the news and copy official language. If anyone tells you to pay a fee to get a government check, that is a scam. If someone calls, emails, or texts asking for your Social Security number, bank account number, or Medicare number because the check is ready, that is a scam. When real government payments go out, you do not have to pay to receive them. You do not have to click a link to unlock them. Information comes through official government websites, letters, and the accounts you already use. If a proposal turns into law, we will walk you through how to verify the details based on official sources so you can move forward safely. It is also useful to separate this talk from your ongoing benefits. This $2,000 tariff dividend idea is a separate, new proposal. It does not change the rules for Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, or Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits. Your monthly Social Security payments follow their own schedule. Medicare coverage follows its rules. If a new law ever passes that sends out checks, the government will publish clear instructions. In past situations, like the pandemic stimulus checks, many programs made clear whether those payments counted as income for eligibility or not. If anything new is passed, we will explain how it interacts with benefits, so you can avoid mistakes and keep what you qualify for. Until then, do not let rumors push you into changing your benefits, switching bank information, or signing up for something you do not understand. If you want a simple way to prepare without stress, focus on having your information current. Make sure your mailing address and direct deposit information are up to date with Social Security and with your bank. Keep your identification documents in a known place. Save any letters you get from the Treasury or the Internal Revenue Service in a folder so you can refer back to them. If you do not use the internet much, consider choosing a trusted family member who can help you look up official information when you need it.
That way, if any new payment is approved in the future, you will be able to receive it without delay, and you will be less likely to get tripped up by imposters pretending to be the government. It is worth spending a moment on the inflation point because that is where expectations can get out of line with reality. When stimulus checks hit bank accounts during the pandemic, many people felt immediate relief. You could pay down a card, buy groceries, or cover an overdue bill. But soon after, prices rose across many categories. The St. Louis Federal Reserve has published research that connects stimulus checks with part of that price rise, adding about 2.6 percentage points to inflation. That does not mean relief was a bad idea. It means there are trade-offs. A check brings short-term breathing room, but if it contributes to higher overall prices, the relief can lose power over time. When policymakers weigh a plan like $2,000 checks today, those lessons are part of the discussion. Economists and analysts are saying that sending out large checks in the current environment could push prices up again at the worst time for people on fixed incomes.
The political side cannot be ignored, and it should not be feared either. Politicians of both parties often float big, simple ideas before elections because they connect emotionally. Checks make people feel seen. They are easy to explain and easy to picture. You do not have to decode a 1,000-page bill to understand what a $2,000 check would mean for your budget. That is exactly why it is important to slow down and look at the full picture. Is there a bill? Is there a timeline? Is there a funding source that actually covers the cost? Is there a legal path to spend the money? Right now, the answers are no bill moving, no set timeline, a funding gap between tariff revenue and the cost, and a need for Congress that has not been met. Add the Supreme Court uncertainty, and the most honest answer is that this looks more like a political message than a policy on the verge of happening. If it resurfaces closer to the 2026 midterms, do not be surprised. If you see ads or speeches bringing it up again, that does not mean you missed your chance. It means the idea is being used to shape how people feel. That is not a criticism. It is an observation about how politics works. Your job is to keep your footing, know your rights, and avoid being pushed into financial decisions by a promise that is not yet real. Here is a simple way to hold on to your peace of mind. Separate what is certain from what is being discussed. Certain means your current benefits, the bills you have now, the balances you can see. Being discussed means proposals, promises, and trial balloons. Build your plan on the certain side. If something moves from discussion to law, we will explain it in plain language and show you how to claim it safely. Until then, you can stay informed without letting the news rattle your budget. You have learned several important things today that can protect you. First, tariffs do bring in money, but not enough to fully fund $2,000 checks as described, especially if everyone, including children, is included. Second, inflation is not just a word on television. It is the reality that can reduce the value of any check you receive and make life more expensive down the line. Third, only Congress can approve sending out checks. The president cannot do it alone. Fourth, the tariff money being discussed as the funding source is tangled in a Supreme Court case that could force refunds to businesses and erase the pot of money altogether. Fifth, big promises often appear before elections because they are popular, but that does not make them immediate or guaranteed. From these points, the lessons are practical.
Do not budget around unpassed proposals. Keep your personal information safe and current. Watch for scams because scams multiply when people are hopeful or worried. Keep your focus on benefits you already have and on steps that are within your control. And remember that it is normal to want relief. Hope is not foolish, it is human. The key is combining hope with clear-eyed planning. I want to leave you with something encouraging. You do not need to be a policy expert to protect your household. You just need a calm way to look at what is real and a guide you trust to explain the rest. You have the right to understand how new ideas might affect your benefits and your taxes. You have the right to ask for proof, to wait for a law to pass, and to say no to anyone demanding fees or personal details. You have the right to make a plan that matches what is certain today, and to adjust later if real relief arrives. No matter how many headlines come and go, those rights are yours. If the government ever does send checks again, what would help you most? For some, it is help with groceries. For others, it is rent, electricity, or a medical bill they have been putting off. When you share your experience, you help leaders and neighbors understand what families truly need. And when real programs are created, your story can guide how they are designed. For now, take a breath. You are not behind. You did not miss a secret application or a sign-up window. There is no approved program sending $2,000 tariff dividend checks today. There is an idea being talked about. There are numbers that do not yet add up. There are legal hurdles that cannot be skipped. And there is a court case that could pull the funding source out from under the idea. You know more now than most people reading headlines on social media. Use that knowledge to steady your plans and guard your budget. I am here to help you track what matters, decode the legal and policy steps, and explain your rights so you are not blindsided by government changes. If you found this explanation helpful, consider sharing it with a friend who might be worried, and subscribe so you can get clear updates when the situation changes. Before we sign off, remember to check that your address and direct deposit information are up to date. Keep your documents in one safe place and take your time before acting on any financial promise you hear in the news. If you see value in content that is calm, factual, and focused on protecting your benefits, your support helps this mission reach more people who need it. If you have thoughts on what kind of help would make the biggest difference for you if checks were ever approved, groceries, rent, or medical costs, share your experience. Every story helps others feel less alone and more prepared. If you found this video useful, please like, share, and subscribe so you can receive future updates. This video is for general information only. It is not financial, legal, tax, or professional advice, and it does not replace the guidance you may receive from a qualified professional or from official government sources. Always confirm details through official channels before making decisions that could affect your benefits or your finances.